I was in a program on forced migration between 2006 and 2008. And while I was in the program, I did my practicum in Ethiopia in a refugee camp 50 kilometers from the South Sudanese border called Shakole Refugee Camp. When I was there were 14,000 refugees, mostly from South Sudan and Darfur. And I was there with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, to do a study on the rates of sexual and gender-based violence within the camp. So I was there in the summer of 2007, basically all by myself. There was no outside communication, no internet access. Within 2 months, there was a satellite phone, but that was it. So that was my first time truly working in a humanitarian crisis, and that proved to be a truly formative experience. I came back to school truly rejuvenated and refreshed and all ready, to go out into the field again. And that was why when I graduated, I made the conscious decision not to look for a job in the US, but to base myself abroad. And that was how I came to be in Zambia at the beginning of 2009. I had spent about half a year looking for a suitable position overseas where I'll be adequately paid, but also have something that I would actually like to do, where I could apply my skills at. So I ended up working in the north of Zambia on a reproductive health clinical trial for the University of California, San Francisco. And that was another tremendous experience. I spent a huge amount of time in a clinical setting, something that I wasn't really prepared for, I think, but I learned a lot. I saw hundreds of deliveries, and I think I learned how to deliver a baby. But I was a site coordinator in northern Zambia for about 9 months before I moved on to another position in Zambia, this time working for the Emory University HIV research group. The principal investigator of my first study was also the principal investigator for this current study, so he wrote me in for his other project. And so I spent another year and a half working for ZERP, the Zambia Emory HIV Research Project, where I was a program manager running the couples counseling and testing department in Zambia, and my primary job responsibilities were the scale up of VCT in Zambia. And as I got more experienced, it became the CDC became very interested in these programs and funded us to do regional consultations. So I was traveling a lot within the region to provide some technical assistance to the CDC in Ethiopia, in Mozambique, in South Africa, on the scale up of couples counseling and testing, and how to respond to HIV discordant couples in the region. Towards the end of my contract at ZERP, I was contacted by the World Bank to do to write some national guidelines for HIV counseling and testing for Kenya. And those guidelines are now in development, and they should be published by next year. There was a lot I had to learn on the ground, despite what the program tries to do, and even the cultural diversity of being in New York and being with different people all the time. There's just, I don't think, anything that can help you really experience what's on the ground. You're faced with a different culture. I was lucky. I was in Zambia, where English was the main language, and I came from a British colony, so there was actually a lot of similarities between Kenya and Singapore. But there's really nothing that could help you adequately prepare for running a department. I was overseeing about 600 part-time staff members and a full-time department of 30 people, all of whom had been in their jobs for over 20 or 30 years, and here I am coming into the mix. Or being in a refugee camp, there's no way you could simulate an intense environment like that. That said, I was really glad that Columbia, that the professors and I think the school itself focused very much on cultural sensitivity and human rights. Those were a thread that ran through all my classes, and I felt that here, Columbia, is not something that the professors take very lightly, and that's something that I brought into my interactions with the local staff members and with anyone I met, really. I was also really grateful for the quantitative skills that I learned here. I took a lot of quantitative analysis classes, a lot of SPSS classes, and those definitely came into, they were helpful. Although when I was working for the CDC, they used SAS rather than SPSS, but because of my background, I could easily transition into the other program. Also, another thing that Columbia gave me that was priceless was my classmates. They proved to be a truly valuable resource. I had a really small class. I think it was 15, maybe 16 people in my class. And I got to know all of them intimately. And I think that was very important. When I talked to my friends from other schools where, there were like 50, 60, maybe even 100 people in their class and they don't know their classmates very well, that was just such a disadvantage, I felt. Because when I was looking for a job here, I turned to all my classmates that I'm still in touch with, and all of them have come forward to offer me help and assistance and advice, and I could never have gotten to where I am without them. So I would say in a nutshell, those were the three things that Columbia gave to me. I'm moving back to New York early next year. It will be working for a public health research company on reproductive health technologies. I will be running a brand new clinical trial on emergency contraception in 20 sites worldwide, so there'll be a lot of travel. I'm looking forward to it right now. I don't know about in a year, but we are, there will be a sample size of 1,000 women, and we will be testing them to see if emergency contraception can and should be used as the primary form of contraception, especially in refugee camps and forced migration settings where you often can't find regular access to contraception.